Here's the plot twist nobody saw coming. Midjourney, the AI art generator that Hollywood studios are suing for copyright infringement, just fired back in court with a nuclear option. They're demanding the studios prove they're not hypocrites by revealing every detail of their own AI systems. And here's the thing, Disney, Warner Bros., Paramount, and Sony almost certainly have their own AI projects running right now. Netflix uses AI to recommend content. Disney's using algorithms to optimize their streaming platform. Amazon Prime is doing it. Apple TV is doing it. They all use AI on copyrighted content every single day. So Midjourney's legal team saw this obvious double standard and exploited it perfectly. They've asked the court to require full disclosure of how each studio currently uses AI, training methods, data sources, everything. If the studios have to show their hand, it suddenly becomes much harder to argue that Midjourney's approach is uniquely unethical. It's a brilliant defensive move that transforms a lawsuit into a mirror, forcing both sides to be transparent about the same thing they are accusing each other of doing. This isn't just about one company defending itself anymore. This could fundamentally reshape how the entire entertainment industry thinks about AI and fairness. To understand why Midjourney's move is so clever, we need to rewind to where this all started. In 2023, a group of major studios, we are talking Disney, Warner Bros., Sony, Paramount, and others, filed a massive class action lawsuit against Midjourney, claiming the AI art generator was trained on billions of copyrighted images without permission. The argument was straightforward. Midjourney looked at millions of photos and paintings created by professional artists, learned the patterns, and then used that knowledge to generate entirely new images on demand. The studios said this was theft of intellectual property on an enormous scale. It made intuitive sense. If I trained an AI on your private photos without asking, you'd be upset too. But here's where it gets complicated. The studios suing Midjourney have been using similar machine learning techniques for decades. They just didn't call it AI. Netflix's algorithms learn from what you watch to recommend new shows. That's machine learning. YouTube's recommendation engine learned from billions of videos. That's machine learning trained on copyrighted content. So when the studios filed their lawsuit, Midjourney's legal team said, wait a minute. If we are wrong for training on images, then you're wrong for training on movies and shows. That's the moment everything flipped. Instead of just defending themselves, Midjourney went on offense. They saw the hypocrisy and decided to exploit it in court. Let's get specific about how this works, because the technical details matter here. When you train an AI image generator like Midjourney, here's what actually happens. First, you collect millions of images from the internet, paintings, photographs, stock photos, everything. Then you feed those images into a neural network, which is like a mathematical pattern recognition engine. The network learns the statistical relationships between images and their descriptions. It figures out, okay, when I see pixels arranged like this with colors like that, it usually means this concept. Over time, it learns to associate visual patterns with meaning. Then when someone types a prompt like a steampunk octopus wearing a monocle, the AI generates new pixels by following the patterns it learned. It doesn't copy any single original image, but it synthesizes something new using what it absorbed from the training data. The same exact process is what Netflix does with viewing data, what YouTube does with video recommendations, and what every recommendation engine does everywhere online. They're all pattern-matching systems trained on copyrighted content. Midjourney's brilliant legal argument is, you can't sue us for the fundamental technique you're all using to run your own businesses. The studios train their systems on copyrighted data too. If Midjourney is guilty of copyright infringement for using images in training, then Netflix is equally guilty for using movies and shows. Now the question becomes, what exactly are these studios using AI for that they'd have to reveal in court? Let's look at Netflix first. Netflix uses AI to recommend shows based on your viewing history and what millions of other users watch. That system was trained on, get this, massive databases of movies and shows, which are copyrighted. Netflix's algorithm learned from copyrighted content without asking permission from writers, directors, or actors. Disney does something similar. Their streaming platform uses machine learning to personalize recommendations and decide which content shows up on your homepage. That system learned from Disney's entire catalog of copyrighted films and shows. Warner Bros. Has similar systems. They're using algorithms that learned from copyrighted movies to promote new movies. Amazon Prime Video, Apple TV, Hulu, they're all doing this. YouTube uses AI trained on millions of copyrighted music videos and films to recommend what you watch next. The scale is actually bigger than what Midjourney does with images. YouTube's recommendation engine probably influenced trillions of watching decisions globally. But here's what makes Midjourney's legal discovery request so powerful. These studios have been completely quiet about their AI systems. Netflix doesn't publish technical details. Disney doesn't explain their algorithms. They keep it all secret because it's proprietary. Forcing them to reveal these systems in court would expose exactly how they operate. So here's the core comparison that makes Midjourney's legal argument unstoppable. On one side, you've got Midjourney, an AI art generator trained on billions of images scraped from the web, including copyrighted artwork. On the other side, you've got Netflix's recommendation engine, trained on billions of hours of copyrighted shows and movies. Both systems learned from copyrighted content without asking permission. Both systems use that training to generate new outputs. Midjourney generates images, Netflix generates recommendations. And here's the thing, Netflix's outputs directly influence whether people watch shows, which directly affects revenue. Netflix's AI recommendations are worth billions of dollars. Midjourney's art generator is worth billions too. But Netflix's AI is arguably more economically powerful because it controls what content people actually consume. Yet Netflix isn't being sued. Nobody's suing YouTube, Amazon, or Apple for training their recommendation engines on copyrighted material. The double standard is stunning. The studios argue that Midjourney is uniquely wrong because it directly synthesizes images that resemble the originals. But Netflix's recommendations are influenced by the originals too. The system learned what makes movies successful by studying copyrighted films frame by frame. Both are using copyrighted training data to generate new outputs that create value. The difference is Midjourney's output is visual and obvious, while Netflix's output is a list of recommendations that feels more abstract. But legally and technically, they are doing the exact same thing. That's why Midjourney's request for disclosure is so devastating. If Midjourney wins this legal battle, the implications are absolutely massive. First, it would force major tech and entertainment companies to reveal their AI systems in detail. That might sound like a win for transparency, but it's actually complicated because these systems are worth enormous amounts of money. Netflix's recommendation algorithm is estimated to be worth tens of billions of dollars. If it has to be revealed in court, competitors could see how it works. That's a nightmare scenario for any company with proprietary AI. Second, this could reshape how AI regulation works globally. Right now, there's a lot of hand-wringing about AI safety and fairness, but enforcement has been loose. This lawsuit could establish that using copyrighted data to train AI requires explicit permission. If that becomes law, it would fundamentally change how AI companies operate. Microsoft, Google, Meta, they've all trained their AI systems on internet data. Requiring explicit permission from every source would be nearly impossible. Third, and this is the scary part, it might actually slow down AI progress. If companies have to get permission from every artist, author, and content creator to train AI on their work, the cost goes up dramatically. Some companies might decide it's not worth it. That could slow innovation. The irony is that the studios suing Midjourney might actually inadvertently slow down their own AI projects if they win. The precedent they are setting could come back to haunt them. But here's what's fascinating. The outcome will determine whether AI regulation favors big established corporations or creates a level playing field. Let's talk about how legal discovery actually works, because that's the mechanism that makes Midjourney's request so powerful. Legal discovery is the process where both sides in a lawsuit have to share evidence and information. The basic rule is, you can't hide things just because they're embarrassing or proprietary. If the information is relevant to the case, it has to be disclosed. Midjourney is arguing that the studio's own AI systems are directly relevant to this case. Here's why. The studios are claiming they have a right to sue because Midjourney used their copyrighted content without permission. But Midjourney is saying, you use copyrighted content in your AI systems too, so you can't claim that's uniquely wrong. That makes the studio's AI systems relevant evidence. In legal terms, it's called a comparative harm argument. You're saying, if you're allowed to do this with copyrighted data, then I should be allowed to do it too. For that argument to work, the court needs to understand exactly what the studios are doing with their AI. That's why full disclosure is necessary. The studios could theoretically fight it. They could argue that their specific algorithms are trade secrets and shouldn't be revealed. But Midjourney has a strong counter-argument. If your AI is trained on copyrighted content just like ours, then you don't get to keep that secret while claiming we are uniquely wrong for doing the same thing. It's a catch-22. Here's what this lawsuit really means for you and why you should care about it even if you've never used Midjourney. This is about whether big companies can have it both ways, using AI when it benefits them while suing startups for using the same technique. Right now, the entertainment industry has enormous power to shape AI regulation. Netflix, Disney, Warner Bros. They lobby governments, they influence policy, they control what gets discussed in media. If they win this lawsuit without having to reveal their own AI systems, it sets a precedent that massive corporations can use AI freely while smaller companies face legal destruction. That's not fair. That's not how innovation works. But if Midjourney wins and the studios are forced to disclose, it changes everything. Suddenly, the conversation changes from Midjourney stealing from artists to every company being trained on copyrighted content. Let's figure out fair rules for everyone. And honestly, fair rules are what we need. Maybe AI companies should compensate artists and creators for using their work in training. Maybe there should be licensing systems. Maybe there should be opt-out mechanisms. But those rules should apply to Netflix and YouTube just as much as Midjourney. The outcome of this lawsuit will determine whether AI regulation favors big, established companies or creates a level playing field. That affects what kind of AI exists, what kind of services get built, and ultimately what kind of future we are heading toward. Watch this space closely. This lawsuit is about more than just images or copyright.